I often find myself incapable of simply enjoying the things I love without obsessively asking fundamentally unimportant questions like, does the Cerberus function as three different independent dog minds co-piloting one body, or is it some kind of a hive mind? Instead of simply accepting fiction as fiction like a normal human being, I obsess over questions even the author didn't bother coming up with answers to. And that got me already kicked out of several debate groups because I was pain to deal with. Ironically, I'm having more enjoyment from submerging myself into fantastical worlds and conceiving in my mind possible explanation to, for example, how does petrification work on molecular level, or how short folk survived the Stone Age. Exactly. How? It is undoubtedly one of the questions less people bother to ask than to answer. Because for once, it's just a game, stop nitpicking, does suffice for an answer, so disclaimer, it's just for fun. Don't take any of this as any form of criticism, it's just for fun. Secondly, for the sake of positive player experience, games are unrealistic, especially when it comes to small playable races and their physical capabilities, and majority of players take the game mechanics as facts and not compromises with reality done for the sake of player enjoyment. When we look at average Asura, we can clearly see that nature severely nerfed their ability to reach the top shelf in the supermarket. But still, in the game world, they can perform every physical activity, on par with walking brick beef houses like Cha and Non. Unfortunately, unlike virtual spaces, real life is cruel and full of zasadskas, on top of which it has specific unprovoked hatred against everything small. Having short arms would mean you can't reach as far, therefore reducing your melee attack range. Having short legs would mean your steps are smaller, therefore you need to put more effort into running, and you can't jump as high as someone taller. You can counter that argument by pointing out that there are dozens of small animals that can achieve very high total speeds and can jump even higher than humans can. Very good observation, dear viewer. However, animals are built different in the most literal meaning, with different bone and muscle structure, optimized for generating and maintaining speed. Our upright standing mid-frame is ass when it comes to top speeds and acceleration, because it was designed for optimal energy conservation. Problem with that frame is, when you scale it down, its performance goes down accordingly. And yes, Asura have slightly different body proportions than us, but that actually works to their detriment, so we'll ignore that for simplicity's sake. To add insult to injury, smaller body also means thinner, easier to break bones, and less muscle mass, meaning you can sustain less damage before going down, and can generate less power with your muscles, which mean you can't punch, throw, or kick as hard, and you can't wear as much ammo as you could if you were bigger. Real-life biomechanics bloody hate short people so much it ain't funny anymore. And we're not even done yet. According to Square Cube law, every time something gets scaled down by half, all of its dimensions, height, length, and width, all got reduced by half. And therefore, volume gets reduced eightfold. Mass of an object is its density multiplied by its volume. And because volume just went down 8 times, with average human weighing between 80 and 60 kilos, assuming average density of Asuran flesh is equal to humans, we can deduce that average Asura weighs between 8 and 10 kilos, or between 17 and 20 pounds for those whose measurement system has fit fetish. You may look at this and ask, what's the problem with weighing 10 kilograms though? Well,
everybody's heard about the bird.
Nature is going to drone strike your ass. Harpy eagle is a big piece of bird known for snatching on monkeys that can weigh around 16-18 pounds and, though not a danger to full-grown human, perfectly in range to turn half-size human into calories. And that's a real bird. Not one from the world where rules of aviation are generous enough to allow much bulkier things to soar the skies. And an average Asura we just discussed could be a dinner for a big bird is an adult Asura. And as we commonly know, progeny are far smaller than their parents, meaning the range of nature's drone surveillance that can put an Asura on the menu is much wider than just the exceptionally big ones. Hell, Asuran kindergartens would have to have anti-air gun platforms on the roofs just to ensure no one's going on involuntary flight trip to the Grenf zone. And we can safely assume the floating upper part of Ratasum has at least something built in to deter the birds. With current technology, golems, firearms and automatic turrets, Asura do certainly possess the means to secure safe space for themselves to build a functioning society, even against Tyrian wildlife. I do not doubt that. Unfortunately for our brave little champions from bottom of the food chain, there was a time before Asura acquired modern tier magitech. Assuming they didn't just spawn into existence already with knowledge of golemancy and firearms technology like it's a flipping survival game, they would have to go through tribal stage of society like everyone else, with sticks, stones and whole lot of Unga-Bunga. Asura could have hid from some dangerous animals by sharing habitats with chinchilla, and fight off other threats with combined effort and sharpened sticks. But there's nothing they could have done with primitive technology to shield themselves against birds of prey. They could only hide. The bird issue is such a big one that it's quite probable Asura wouldn't be able to even raise their young under the open sky, and therefore wouldn't be able to build a permanent settlement nor establish agriculture, the fundamentals of functioning society. Which is where ArenaNet lands their first slam dunk when it comes to Asuran lore. Asura used to live in the depths of Tyria, continent-sized expanse of underground caverns underneath Tyria where nature couldn't drone strike them from above, or at least where such risk wasn't as prominent. Of course, Asura weren't alone in depths of Tyria, sharing habitats with, amongst others, the Rich, which as we know love everything that lives. Asura would still have hard time settling there, but merely taking birds out of the picture already elevates probability of their success at forming a society from impossible to improbable. Improbable because still they are the smallest, physically weakest species in depths that attempted at forming society. It is fairly probable that Asura from the very start were leading the arms race between species in the depths, avoided direct conflict and resorted to traps and guerrilla tactics in defense of their early settlements. It would still be rough, considering that their underwhelming physique would be a disadvantage even in building traps. The technological prowess wouldn't necessarily benefit Asura as much as you think. Invention of bow, for example, wouldn't be a big advantage for them, as you need muscle to pull back the string, not to mention, the further you can pull it, the longer the string keeps pushing energy into the projectile while the weapon shoots. So, short arms and small muscle mass of Asura would make them poor archers unable to fire actual warbows. Thank Haven's MMOs ignore physics, biomechanics and common sense in general. The point is, even firearms technology favors strength and size of the user, as firearms have recoil, and firearms other races could shoulder fire would knock over Asuran sharpshooter, if not break his collarbone on the spot. What Asura needed to win the arms race is recoilless firearms, which coincidentally Magitech provides, and which also coincidentally Asura had a chance to access far earlier than you might think, thanks to their unknowing allies. Murasat, Seer, Dwarves, Jotun, and the Forgotten. These were ancient Tyrian races that fought against Elder Dragons eons before humanity set foot on the surface of Tyria. We know destroyers emerged first in the depths of Tyria, as the depths were the closest to where Primordus lied dormant. It is quite probable that in their efforts to deal with dragons, ancient races sent strike teams, if not small armies, into the depths of Tyria to face off against Primordus' minions. Discarded weapons and artifacts left behind by these armies could be discovered, studied, and reverse-engineered by early Asura, granting them jumpstart into the world of Magitech. Especially magical prowess and constructs fielded by Mursat seem to have inspired Asuran Magitech and Golemancy, allowing them to push through the hardest for them stage of social development. By living originally outside the reach of aerial predators and jump-starting development of their technology by studying artifacts left behind by ancient races, Asura achieved what I deemed was impossible. They are the first and only small race whose existence and development into strong advanced society is not only possible, but justified within its own universe and canon law. I am extremely nitpicky, and I find no flaw in Asura's origin, as Guild Wars law directly or indirectly explains every step in the process. However, there's still one tiny thing that bugs me, that Asura don't use exoskeletons. Think about it. The race that has both the technology and the need to improve their physical performance just didn't do the most logical step after golemancy? Bloody dredge field exoskeletons, and they need them less because they are bigger and stronger. And who the hell was supposed to be smartest species on Theria? I understand that civilians in Ratasum don't need power armor to bake bread and feel superior, but peacemakers and playable characters coming against literal dragons do certainly have an excuse for it, didn't they? And as we were shown, it can be done. And we have Golem's power armor for World Reward, so why does entire Asuran race field hundreds upon hundreds of golems but decides not to arm up their field operatives? Do they value their own lives or lives of their staff so little, or do they just lack basic common sense? Or maybe, just maybe, ANET committed another case of wasting potential. After all, leave it to ANET to somehow fuck everything up anyway after a long streak of correct decisions. And I foolishly assumed this video will end on a positive note. Never mind. Crabface out.